Hello, and welcome to the sixth installment of the Toy Storage Nation series, TSN Conversations. This series is based on questions we most often get at Toy Storage Nation. Today's topic is the increasing role technology plays in Class A RV and boat storage. Today's participants are John Bilton, Director of Western Sales, Nokē, Janus International Group, Jeff Bailey, Regional Sales Manager, Yardi. I want to mention that John Bilton is a Toy Storage Nation Advisory Board member. And Jeff, thank you for all the fantastic reports, speakers, and content Yardi contributes both on the Breeze and Matrix sides to Toy Storage Nation. Thank you both for being here. Before we begin, I was hoping that you could briefly introduce yourselves and give us a bit of background. John, can we start with you?
Sure. Welcome. I'm glad to be here today, and thanks for allowing us to participate in this, and look forward to doing this with you and Jeff today. I've been in the storage industry about 20 plus years now and have had a strong technology background in networking predominantly. I worked for some famous old names in the 90s like US Robotics and 3Com. 3Com actually had 3Com Park at one stage where the Giants played, as well as the San Francisco 49ers. But storage has been really my passion in the last 20 years, and I've really enjoyed this industry. I've always been on the technology side of this industry and continue to do so with Janus International Group and the Nokē Smart Entry product. And that touches a lot of different aspects, and I suspect we'll get into that today. So thank you.
Thank you, John. And Jeff?
Thanks for the opportunity to be here. My name is Jeff Bailey. I'm a regional sales manager in charge of the self-storage sales team for Yardi Systems. Have been exclusively focused on self-storage software for the last 2.5 years. Prior to that, was working at Yardi, selling their flagship program, Voyager. While I was doing that, I was also owning and operating storage facilities as a side project. Prior to that, I've been either a client or worked at Yardi since 2005. So I'm very familiar with the product, very familiar with the technology, and have a pretty strong background in finance and property management, both on the residential and self-storage side. Again, thanks for the opportunity, and we're happy to be here.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank both of you. Before we get into kind of talking about the depth of today's topic, the increasing role technology plays in Class A boat and RV storage, I want to kind of just give a brief overview of what technology and software can do. There are a number of things that can be handled: leasing, payments, access, RV and boat tracking, tracking maintenance, vendor payments, customer relations, marketing. Jeff, can you just give us a broad, I'm not talking having to get specific on any one area, but just kind of the scope of what technology can do for owners and operators out there?
Yeah, sure. What our view of the world, what your property management system should help you do is, help you market your facility and get that prospect in the door. Once that prospect or lead comes in, you should be able to track how that lead progresses or how that prospect progresses through their journey with you. And that includes things like online leasing. Maybe you need that system to nurture that lead a little bit. Hey, saw you're on the website, you're interested, send them an email. We got some leasing specials coming up, or we have some availability on that unit you were looking for. Get those folks in the door, get them to sign up online, get them to establish an account online and sign up for auto pay, because I know that's really important for people. In addition to that kind of tenant management and that receivable side, the system also should help you to, collect rents, reconcile your bank accounts, help you get those things straight. And then we help you track your vendors, track your payables, and help you present that full, profitability. What's the NOI on the property? What's the property performance, right? And we like to have all of that stuff in one place. I think that's really important. And then, after that, hey, help manage that tenant, manage those facilities, built-in work order system, so you can assign those out to vendors or your own roving, maintenance folks as well. Kind of an all-in-one stop shop, so help you manage your property. That's what our view of this is.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything that you would add to that, John? And I'm thinking access.
Jeff did a really good job of describing that, and it's really important. Jeff, and what they have in their property management system is really the central hub of the operations often for a owner operator. Our component ties into that, and that's a really important piece, is that, Yardi Systems has a great API, and we have an API, and this is how these softwares talk together. And having that integration is really, I think, critical, so that what we do on the access control side, getting into the facility, getting into a space or into a enclosed space that may have a door on it for an RV, is really critical. And that data coming back through the system and being presented in a meaningful way for the owner operator to take advantage of what's happening at the property or what's not happening at the property, knowing who's there, how long they've been there, have they locked their unit, how long have they stayed. All of those elements are really driven in a cooperative environment with systems that come together. And so the Nokē Smart Entry system specifically ties in with Yardi and their property management system, and those tie-ins are really critical. And so I think that's part of your question, and also kind of what owner operators need to be looking for in making these things congruent. Because I think Jeff has used the term, we have this simple stack of solutions, and some of those solutions are from different vendors. And these vendors need to be able to talk to each other, so the owner operator can have a single dashboard or a single pane of glass, or not have to have 10 places they go to get one piece of information.
Thank you, John. And that leads right into my next question. Thank you very much. Integrating is extremely important. All this, there's a number of different systems somebody may be using. How does an owner operator make sure when they're starting to look at software systems or what they're needing to do, if they are going to use different systems, how do they ensure that everything can be fully integrated? Should they be talking to their rep in each location? Is there sometimes a middle person? How can they make sure that happens with the best ease, I guess you could say?
If you're asking me, it's talking to these vendors. You talk to Yardi, and Yardi knows who they're integrated with, and we know who we've done integration work with. And if those vendors haven't met up, then help them meet up if they choose to do that. And then making sure that the integrations are there, so that when something is laid down in the property management software, a unit is rented, and there's a smart gate or a smart lock on a unit, that tenant experience is seamless through that process. So they get their digital key, they get to the gate opens for them, they get to their space, the space is available, and somebody else isn't in there. And so I think that's the key, and talking to the vendors is really critical in making sure that those experiences are going to be meaningful for the tenant and for that customer.
Yeah, I think to echo John's point, it's really important. We work with Janus on their access control, and we work with a number of other vendors, and it's really important, in that leasing process. Hey, here's my gate code, here's my key code. It's been communicated out from the software out to that vendor who runs those systems. So now that access is granted immediately. And then more important, just as important as well for that owner operator, if that tenant goes into a delinquent status, the appropriate steps are taken to remind the tenant that they need to pay in order to regain access to the facility, right? So that's, it's a two-way street, pushing and pulling that data back and forth to make sure that that happens.
It was interesting in my research, the number one thing that I kept finding on everyone's site is the integration, which then told me how important that is, whether I was looking at Click and Store or Storage Commander or Yardi or Nokē, it was how systems can work together. Would you suggest to someone who's looking to start automating their facility, you want to make sure from the get-go? It's probably harder to do it after the fact. If you come in with one system and then kind of work it backwards, you probably should make sure everything you're wanting to do can work together from the beginning. Am I right? Or can it sometimes be done after the fact?
That's a really good.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jeff.
John. No, go ahead.
To say, I think it can be done both ways. I think there's different challenges if you're doing a retrofit on an existing property that has not had technology versus a new construction site where you're starting from scratch. Those can both take the technologies that's available in the marketplace and put them in place, but it's a little bit different. The reason it's different, shutting my cell phone off. The reason it's different is you have existing buildings and infrastructure that is in place that may be from the 80s or 90s or early 2000s. And some of that may not be completely congruent with some of the modern technologies or systems that are out there. For the most part, we can, come in and retrofit a property, retrofit a gate or an operator, or put a gate or operator on an entry point, whether it's a gate or a slider door or a man door, or whatever the case may be, and create an integration with your property management platform and add capabilities that sit outside the physical nature of the property itself. For instance, of upgrading your website, making your website able to do an online rental, and doing those kinds of things that could take a property that's 20 or 30 years old and modernize it, or at least to give it a modern feel to the potential tenant that may be shopping online now, versus the yellow pages. It's gone away for quite a few years, and or just driving by and pulling in. They want to make that rental experience online. So you've got to kind of find the right vendors that can provide those kinds of solutions to you to change what you have, or in a new construction setting, you get to start with a blank sheet and you can plan accordingly, talk to the right vendors, and put that together as you build that new set.
Right. I think to follow up on John's point, John talked about, hey, we can perform retrofits and upgrades to the property facility itself with gates and locks and things of that nature. And that's really important too. But it's also important to realize it's okay to upgrade your technology, right? It's okay to acknowledge, hey, I've had this system in place for a long, long time. It doesn't do the things I need it to do. I need to get into online leasing. I need to provide that upgraded customer experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while you're doing that, also realize that it's okay to have that full integration stack there to help you scale your business if you want to grow, or you're finding, things are a lot more expensive today than they were 5 years ago in terms of buying a storage facility or building a storage facility. And now I have to find profitability in other places except just on the buy. I have to find it in my operations. And how do I become more efficient in my operations?
Very good point. Thank you, Jeff. It's great to see, even between the two of you, how you already work together. It shows how these technologies, obviously you guys have some history together, and both of your technologies working together, and it's a kind of a team approach for owners, operators, that they've got that on the other end. John, you led into the next thing I was going to talk about. It's like you're reading my mind. When you were talking about how important a website is and being able to lease online. Isn't that what most people are doing these days? I mean, I'm sure there are drive-bys, but a lot of people are looking things up online. How important is a website capability? How important is SEO? Making sure that your site comes up when someone is searching. And then I want to add on top of that, I'm going to kind of blend a couple of questions. In your opinion, and if you don't have an answer, that's great, but how important is your mobile capability? Not just your desktop website, but how many people are looking things up on their mobile phone?
That's a great question, and there's kind of three big questions in there. Let's kind of start with the website itself. I think the websites have become very important. They're the introduction, the gateway to the property now. People always focused on signage, and I still think signage is important because people do drive by and recognize where the location is. But often the research and the homework, even after the drive-by, is done online. So those potential customers drive by, oh, I saw it, I'll look it up online. And so that online experience is extremely important for that potential tenant and for the existing tenant, both. They need to be able to come, get online, pick the right unit size, look at where it is on the property. Oh, I like that location. It's not too far from the gate, or whatever the case may be. And if they can complete the rental online, they're there. You've got an active audience. Let them complete the rental online. Let them click on the clicks necessary. Have them put in their driver's license and do the various things that you need to do to rent them a unit, or at least at a minimum, reserve them a unit so that they can come down and put their materials and all their goods inside that unit. So the web's very important. Mobile, I think, has become more important as the younger generations continue to move forward. I mean, I've got, Jeff mentioned he has some children, and I do too. You know, I call them digital natives. They're growing up with cell phones in their hands starting in, 7th, 8th, or 9th grade usually. And so this is where they go for their information, and this is where they're going to go to rent storage. And so I think the mobile piece is very important, that you be able to execute all of the functions on a regular website that you can on your mobile device. I poll audiences quite often when I've talked to people and say, how many people bought something on Amazon this week? And I often say, how many bought it on their mobile device from Amazon? And usually the hands all stay up because they're doing it that way. And so that's kind of table stakes now, I believe. And then, Jeff can talk to probably SEO better than I can, but SEO is really important. I mean, how many people really go to page 2 on a Google search?
Yeah.
I just don't think that happens very often. And so having presence on page 1 and being local and having your business profile filled out correctly on Google and having the right information, the right address, phone number, those simple things make a big difference when it comes to that web search and what people are looking for and being present on that, particularly first page.
Yeah. Amy, to your point, I think when we were at the last quarterly show after ISS in Las Vegas, there was a site tour up to a property in North Las Vegas, right? And so, that facility wasn't near anything. It was just off I-15. And, my suspicion is that the popularity of that facility, because it was full, I can't remember how many spots it had there, was based upon the fact that people driving by, they see a location, and the next thing they're doing, they're on their phone looking at that thing like, can I rent a spot at that facility, right? So good drive by there, but then they're searching for it and they got to be able to find that facility on the web search, right? So that's important. They were probably, I'd be curious to talk to the site manager to see how many people actually executed a lease online and moved in online, because that's, I know she mentioned that most of the boats and RVs that were there were from people who aren't from Las Vegas. They're from someplace else, and they just go there and get their thing and then go do whatever it is they're going to do on vacation and leave it there when they come back. So that was a phenomenal learning experience for me in terms of how that facility actually operates. So that's one thing to think about in terms of mobility and internet presence and the importance of that stuff. The other thing too, and John touched on this, the SEO part. So nobody makes it to page 2 of the search, right? That's totally true. People skip over the sponsored stuff that gets put on the top of the page that people pay for. It's like, I want to look at, what's the organic search results and how, what's meaningful here? What am I really looking for is kind of the way I look at SEO and the importance of that.
Thank you, Jeff. I know we did my last podcast episode. We talked about, if you build it, will they come? Question mark, right? And it was a lot about marketing and how you have to start your marketing, actually plan months in advance, because by the time you're going live, you want to have built that SEO for your website. And there's little tricks that you can do too, linking to local chambers and whatnot, backlinks that can help bump you up as well. So a lot of times, a lot of thought needs to go into that even before someone gets going. Want to ask you a question, and you guys will probably laugh at me on this, but I had the question, I had someone else ask me this. How important is cloud-based, and what does actually cloud-based really mean?
Yeah. Cloud-based, John.
And you can laugh at me for asking that. I know that's
So cloud-based, in its very
5-year-old
simplest
can answer it,
to
I'm sure.
me, is that, hey, I can access whatever it is I need to access over the internet, right? So it's, hey, I need to log into a website to do an online lease, or I need to look at my bank balance, right? That means that data resides somewhere on a server that's accessible through a Wi-Fi connection or through a cellular connection. Yes, I can do a login and connect to that data or that item through my cell phone, through a Wi-Fi connection on my computer. That's what cloud-based means. And the end result of that cloud-based concept is that it's accessible pretty much anytime as long as you have a connection, right? That's kind of what, it's very simplest form. That's what it means.
Got you.
Yeah, I would agree, Jeff. I mean, that's absolutely important. I think in our industry, we've had products that have been, where you've had to have a PC on site to run this particular entry point, or you've had to have some premise equipment on property to make some function happen. And today, when we've gone to the cloud, everybody in essence now carries their computer around with them, and or has it sitting on a desk in their home or on their couch because they're on Wi-Fi or a cellular data connection, and they can access the information and the programs that they need anytime, 24/7. They're available, and you don't have to have all that equipment that you've had in the past sitting in a room at your site. You just really need, a live internet connection, and away you go. So, people have moved not everybody, but most people have moved everything to the cloud so that it becomes that kind of ubiquitous access. In our space, it's really critical, because if you allow for remote entry, or you want to open your gate and you're 1,000 miles away, as long as you've got a cellular data connection or a live Wi-Fi connection, and that connection is not interrupted back to your site, you're going to be able to perform that function from your smartphone sitting in a restaurant, 1,000 miles away. And so that is really what the cloud enables owner operators and, frankly, tenants to do. Tenant can digital key share with somebody that lives 400 miles away, and that digital key goes through the internet to give that person the ability to go to that site.
Thank you. And I'm going to switch up a question I was going to ask, just because we're talking about how important cloud-based is, and you mentioned your cell phone, and so many things are being done through the cell phone now. So I have a couple questions on that. One, do we find that an older demographic has any issues with using their cell phone for all of these features? The other is, what happens if someone's cell phone, for whatever reason, they don't have internet access or it dies? Are there any other systems kind of put into place that can help someone if they don't happen to have access, or they're just stubborn and don't like using their cell phone?
I'd be happy to take a shot at that. We helped a site put some remote access and entry points and electronic locks, Bluetooth locks at a facility about 4.5 years ago, and it was in a retirement community in southern Arizona. And to be honest, we were nervous about this very item. The demographic at that site was, everybody was at least, the young guys were 65. And I remember being on property and talking to a gentleman and his friend. And they were both, one was 79 and the other was 80. And they were picking their golf clubs up. And I said, "Hey, I noticed you guys both have smartphones." And they said, "Yeah, I do have a smartphone." And I said, "Tell me about that." And they had new iPhones. And they said, "Well, my kids want to text, or my grandkids want to text, and they want to FaceTime. And so I got to have one of these phones because my life and my extended families are kind of driving me to use the technology." And I said, "Well, how do you like using the technology here at the site?" And they said, "Once we figured it out, it's really quite easy to do." And so I have found over the last several years, it's not a huge impediment. Age is not really the issue. Most of, I'll call them the seniors, and even the World War II, greatest generation folks have smartphones or a smart device, and they're able to use them. If their phone goes dead, you mentioned, you all of a sudden don't have a phone, or it's dead. Because everything has a login these days, if you can get another device or even somebody else's phone and log in with your credentials on another person's device, it's going to work the same way. And that goes back to the cloud, because it's all in the cloud. And so there's ways around that. If somebody absolutely does not have a smartphone, that's a challenge. Now, for egress and ingress into a property that has cloud-based gate technology or access control, you can give them a Bluetooth key fob. So it's something they hold in their pocket or put on their key ring, and they can touch that, physically push it, and it'll do the same function, but they lose some of the elegance of the cloud-based component because they don't get the data and information as to what's happening and when they did it and those things. The owner operator still does, but they don't. And Jeff may have a different view of this as well.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it to Jeff.
I think I echo your sentiment that, that older generation, that the greatest generation, the baby boomers, their adoption of technology has been expedited by their kids and grandkids, basically, right? I think I gave my mom her first iPhone to her a while back, and now she upgrades it on the regular, and she texts on the regular too. And so far as a dead cell phone, I've found that to be mostly isolated to the college age cohort that for
Good
some
point.
reason doesn't
Yes, very good
charge their
point.
phone, or they left their charger in the car. I don't know. The access to cellular technology and to cloud-based applications is ubiquitous. Good news or bad news, that's just the way it is. People can log in, people can get access. John's solution about that Bluetooth key fob to help with access to the security points for that one person in 300 that doesn't have a smartphone. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, right? But we haven't found, in our experience with online payments, both residential, commercial, and self-storage, like, not a problem, to be honest with you. It's fine.
Thank both of you. Some really, really good insight, and you are doing this day in and day out, and you're working with the folks that are out there using this technology. And so, points well made, and understand you exactly on the college kids.
Yeah.
Understand from ours. What role do kiosks play in all of this? I hear about kiosks all the time, and how do they integrate with everything that we're talking about right now? Jeff, you and I were talking a little bit about this before we came on, and you had some really good insight.
So I think the world's #1 online leasing kiosk and payment kiosk is the thing that we're holding in our respective hands right now. This is where all the action goes down for the most part, right? I've seen some kiosks that distribute locks if people feel compelled to give that renter a lock and hand out that lock. Okay, yeah, we get that. That's interesting, but that's few and far between. Personally, I've dealt with kiosks. I found them to be attractive nuisances, if you will, so to speak. But that's just a risk you have to evaluate at a site level and figure out if you want to do that. That's kind of the way we look at it.
Yeah, I would frankly agree with Jeff. I mean, some of this is somewhat personal preference, but I agree 100%. We carry a kiosk around with us today, and the capabilities of that device are such that I'm not sure why you need. It's interesting, Jeff saying an attractive nuisance, because I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I think it can be that way. I really think the technology's there and it's available for most everybody. I think the kiosk station, people are build vestibules for them, and they do different things to create safety and security for them. I think for the most part, that can be overcome in a different way. I think there are circumstances on certain sites where they may make sense, but I think some of those tend to be mega sites and things like that. For the most part, I believe today that the traditional kiosks that dispensed a lock and some of those things is really kind of an era that we've moved past with some of the other tech that we have available to us today.
Got it. Thank you both. With regards to the data that's captured, because that's an important component of all this, right? I mean, it's valuable data for the owners and operators to see who's coming, who's going, keeping track, helping with looking at overall costs, how to maximize profitability. But how important is it to ensure that the data that's being captured is safe, and what measures are put into place to make sure that happens?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question. I know for us, we maintain, private identifiable information for our clients, customers. We maintain card and payment data, and we take that very seriously. We get SOC 1, SOC 2 audits twice a year. We do penetration testing twice a year, and we take the protection of that data very seriously, and it's important. Insofar as, that's kind of at a very micro level, the absolute requirement that you have to have, right? It's not negotiable. It is consumer privacy, and it has to be done. And we maintain standards. It's a trade-off between who has a more rigorous standard in terms of consumer privacy. Is it Europe or California? It seems like they switch off every year, and we're definitely on the leading edge with those two entities in terms of consumer privacy. And then, one of the other things that we look at as well is data as it relates to operational levels and trends and things of that nature. We view that as important. And we anonymize that. It's not identifiable to any operator per se, but we identify that, and we anonymize it and use it to identify trends and what we're seeing. So that's kind of our view on data, to be sure. But yeah, consumer protection is like, we're serious about that. That's important.
And I have to say, Jeff, we love the Yardi matrix reports that come out. We're always looking for your updates. It's phenomenal that you guys are doing them on this new asset class area.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would agree with Jeff 100%. I think that, the Sarbanes-Oxley compliance, the levels 1 and 2 are very important. Our piece of it is a little bit different. Jeff and Yardi, what they do, they're really the data masters, and they collect and make an unidentifiable, and they push that data back into the industry and allow us to understand our overall business and also help us understand trends in the industry. We're a little more micro on the data. We do security testing, penetration testing every year as well. We use a third party that comes and, for lack of a better term, ethically hacks or tries to hack into our systems. And then they produce a report to us whether they were successful or not, and what we could do to mitigate potential threats into data and or entry on a specific lock or a gate or a system. We also produce our own data set from the entries and what's happening. And our data set's relatively simple, but what we try to do is point out the stuff that's weird, like came to the gate but never went to their unit, or went to the unit 5 hours later, or came to the gate and never left the property. Things that you could action upon as an operator to go, well, that's a little weird. So we try to point out the things that aren't in the normal flow of an operational day at a site. If sites have allowed 24/7 access, I think it's important to kind of understand that, who's coming and when they're coming and going. And so we produce that kind of data set, but it's not near what Jeff and the Yardi guys do and some of the other organizations out there in this grand scope of data. We're very, I'll call it to micro with our data and specific to what's happening at the property at any given time. But the security component around that data is very important to us. And we make sure that that is secured and safe for our tenants and for our owner operators in the marketplace.
And John, again, probably a naive question, but the data that is being captured through the Nokē system, I would assume you're sharing that with the owner operator, and that's giving them a lot of insightful information to make some decisions. Can you talk a little bit about that, the type of information they see?
Yeah.
And how that can help them on their day-to-day kind of decision making.
Sure. I mean, Jeff's PMS system produces a ton of great reports, and operational reports, financial reports, and things like that. What we try to produce is a set of reports around activity. And the activity we try to point out is oftentimes the activity that's bad behavior. So, things like, we had a site call us a while back and said, hey, we've got a gentleman, it appears he comes every morning at 10 and leaves at 3. He's here 5 hours, And I said, okay, let me take a look. And I looked, and I'm like, yeah, he's there 5 hours every day. Yep. And they're like, well, what should we do? And I said, well, it's kind of an operational decision. You guys need to, figure out, why is he there 5 hours a day? And, so the data pointed out to them something very simple. They did approach a gentleman, and he said, oh, it was during the height of COVID. He's like, if I don't get out of the house and get down here and putter around my unit, I'm getting a divorce. And he said, I am so happy. This was shocked the owner. I'm so happy that you know that I'm here. Because if something happens to me, I know that you know I'm here. And so that was not the reaction or what they thought they may get. Now I've got stories on the opposite side where, bad things were happening in the unit, and the activity data helped point out some bad behavior.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that we try to do in providing the data to the owner operator. And we produce a set of reports, and then we also give the owner operator all of the activity data. And I know that some of them use the activity data to make business decisions on their go forward. They look at that and go, oh, I should staff differently on long weekends because I get a bulk of activity then, or I should do this on Tuesdays or this on Fridays because of what's happening at the property. And so they make business decisions based upon what's happening from an activity perspective. That's the piece we do. The Jeff and his team just do this beautiful, reporting component on all the financials and things like that. We don't touch that piece.
Thank you.
And I would echo that. Like, I've used a system that provides, data as it relates to activity on the site at the site level. And it's very helpful in managing day-to-day risk at some level when you have to do that. And it's also, to John's point, hey, am I making a strategic decision here that I need to change? Like, that stuff's really important.
Yeah, it gives you a great insight into what's going on. I'm going to shift it a little bit. I wanted to ask about customer service. How important is prompt, good customer service and all this, whether it be the owner, operator, manager, and then also on the other side, a tenant? Where does, if there's an issue and someone needs to reach out to someone, or are these things pretty seamless and there isn't really a lot of, assistance needed? Where do you see customer service falling into all of this?
I mean, from Yardi's perspective, we provide a product that helps a tenant get in touch with that owner operator relatively quickly, right? Our clients have the ability to turn on a work order system, and that tenant can log in online and put in a work order if they want. That's going to show up on a dashboard immediately. They also have the ability to send a text message to that owner operator if they want. We give our clients the chance to receive good news and bad news as fast as they want to get it, right? Conversely, for us, and when we manage and communicate our relationship with our clients, we view that as kind of, philosophically, we believe that, we're measured by the number of happy clients, period. We're a private company. We've been owned by the same person for 40 years, the entirety of our existence. We're not pushing out profit numbers to public markets or to private equity shops. We're here to have happy customers, because if you do that, the rest of it takes care of itself, really. So that's kind of our philosophy on customer service.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Jeff. We made a decision some time ago on our customer service side to go 24/7 and to own that customer service experience. The customers we serve are the owner operators. The tenants, we prefer the tenants to talk to the owner operator, and then they talk to us, because that equipment that they may have on property is related to that property, and we want to make sure the tenant experience is robust for the owner operator, but we funnel them to us, specifically the owner operator. We are fortunate enough to have offices in the UK and in Australia, so we can span the 24-hour clock with our own employees that are specific to our system, and both software and hardware. And then we do have a delivery system that can be done online, so they can actually book, something failed, come fix. They can book it online anytime. We also have chat and email and phone. So those are, we try to give them the different avenues to get to us, to talk to us. And, we answer the phone about 90% of the time. And then we try to get back to everybody within 10 or 15 minutes, 100% of the time. And so we may not resolve it at that very moment, depending on how complex it might be or might not be. But we want to make sure we acknowledge what's going on, and then we work on it and perform, the function for the owner operator.
Thank you. Thank you both. I know I'm cognizant of time, so I have just a few minutes. So I'm gonna kind of cherry pick my next couple of questions for you. And then before we go, would love for you both to give a brief overview of what Nokē does for facilities, and then also Yardi, Matrix, and Breeze. I'll bring Matrix in there too, because I think that that's a great asset from Yardi as well for folks. But the question I had is, we've talked a lot about the benefits. Obviously, the data mining allows operators to look and kind of help control their net operating costs, make decisions that way. A great point that Mike Schwartz of Rec Nation had brought up to me in a previous podcast was that software management really enabled them to scale. It allowed them to look at, multiple properties, what was happening. It allows them to kind of, although they have one-on-one, managers still available in there, it allows them to see things immediately, and it allows them to scale what they're doing. So that's another, great benefit. So, any benefits that maybe we haven't talked about yet that technology and automation is allowed, but also I want to do the flip. Are there some negatives to that? And meaning, are there some sites when they're opening? Do you think that they should go fully automated right away? Is there an importance of having a manager on the site, maybe to at least get it filled up? Where do you kind of land there? So two-fold question.
Yeah, be happy to.
And then any negatives, if there are any, in your opinion.
Yeah, I'd be happy to start there. So let me tell you what I'm seeing in the marketplace. And I am seeing on, new construction sites, quite often I'm seeing a manager being present during lease up. And then sometimes I'm seeing those resources reallocated differently in an organization that has more than one site or that has multiple sites after a lease up period. I am also seeing owner operators that have a fully automated model that when they open a new site, whether it's a retrofit or new construction, they go from day one with a fully automated and remotely managed property. And so I'm seeing both in the marketplace, and I'm seeing both be successful. I think some of it's a philosophical difference in people's opinions all of a sudden. And I think also some of it is driven by the operational imperative of the organization and some of their tradition. I've seen some newer organizations that have started in the last 5-7 years that tend to adopt technology very fast and started in storage with a technology platform and felt that was the new frontier for self-storage. I see some owner operators that have been in the marketplace a lot longer that have more of a hybrid model. They're using technology and they're deploying technology rather rapidly, but they're still using, people on property. I'm seeing models that are very leveraged. So you've got one remote managed person that can manage, 3 to 6 sites or 7 sites. Mm-hmm. Often that's a live interaction at the site, but it's delivered through technology. So, Amy, you show up on the screen and say, "Hi, welcome. How can I help you?" You're not there at the property, but you're still live at the property via technology. And so I'm seeing a blend in the marketplace for those various things. The downside is the internet needs to work, and you need to have the right speed, and people need to have, a smartphone. So those downsides are getting pretty limited. We did a couple sites in Idaho recently, and these are rural Idaho, and they used, not promoting it, but they used, Mr. Elon Musk's Starlink system, and with that satellite on one of the roofs of their buildings, it works great, and they've got great connectivity, and so I think it's available most everywhere now. And if you can get the right setup, I think today the downsides are pretty limited in that regard. And then I'll let Jeff take it from there, but that's kind of my view on it.
That's interesting. internet connectivity, just building on that last story, in 2 years, we've had one system return because the person did not have internet at the site, which, nobody even thought to ask that question. Is how far gone we are from that, right? But yeah, I thought I was going to get a disk and I was going to install it on my computer and run the
Wow.
software. I was just like, I haven't seen an egghead store in 15 years. I mean, I don't know. So yeah, whether or not you do remote, hybrid, or have a site staff, it depends on the maturity of the property. Are you in lease up? I think, I've seen most successful lease ups have that site person there. I think another thing that is important too is to realize the demographic that you're in, that facility resides in. I've found if we're in an older demographic, sometimes it's more useful to have people there, and interact with your customers on a one-on-one basis. As we become more competitive, as facilities, again, pricing competition on building and buying, that's going to put downward pressure on margins, and we're going to have to be more efficient. We're going to have to find scalable solutions to make us, better operators, basically. So, that automation, I think, the demand for that is only going to increase over time. We've seen that with commercial management as well as residential management, and it's coming to self-storage.
Thank you. Great insight from both of you. It was interesting though. One thing that Mike Schwartz from Rec Nation, mentioned, like I said, that, this technology has enabled them to scale. They're able to see kind of what's working in one site, kind of take it, use it in others, be able to look at multiple sites. But what it really still comes down to is customer service, quick response time, that every customer is the most important customer they have. And Jeff, you just brought up a good thing. The demographic of these folks, they have a high expectation, right? They've got very expensive boats and RVs that they're, having protected and secured at these locations, and they're expecting a quick response or callback. And so it's kind of interesting how it's all blending together. Some of the old things that have always been important are more important than they've ever been, but the technology is just giving us the capability to do more of it at one time. Would you agree?
Yeah,
I would agree.
You should go, no.
Yeah.
Real quick, just wanted to, and I promise this will be the last question, but as far as ease of access, one question I get a lot is folks that are coming into a boat or RV facility, they've got their big rig, they're not wanting to have to get out, right? They like the ease of having the cell phone to secure their payments and all of that. John, talk a little bit about access and what can be done for that, for folks that they're not having to get out of their big rigs when they're coming into a location.
Yeah, like we've talked about, everybody's got that computer in their hand, their smartphone, and with the use of different technologies today, from most any smartphone today, you can open an entry point, whatever type it is. It could be a gate, a slider door, a man door, whatever the case may be, anything that has a motor solution on it. And that can be done from the cab of your Class A RV. And you don't even have to roll down the window if the weather's bad. You touch your smartphone. The gate and phone recognize each other. They understand that there's a security protocol between them, and that device is an authorized device to open that particular door. Our assumption is always the person holding the device is also the authorized person. And in most devices today, you have facial recognition or at least thumbprint on your smartphone. So it should be you holding your smartphone, touching it, and opening that gate. And that provides that ease of entry into a facility or into an enclosed unit, and gives that security, and also provides the data back through your property management software, through your gate system software, through Nokē Smart Entry, to show that action's taken place. And the tenant gets to know that this is when I came and when I left. And if they've shared a digital key with somebody, this is when they came and left. And did they lock my unit, or did they close the gate? And that's all very important and is laid down in the cloud, in the database, so that everybody has that information.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Before we go, Wanted to just quickly have both of you give your name, your contact information for folks out there who are listening to this, and want to have questions for you or want to get in touch with you with technology solution questions or needs. Just a brief overview also of what your companies provide in this area. And Jeff, I'll add on to that, talk a little bit about the Matrix site too. So Jeff, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Jeff Bailey, Regional Sales Manager, Yardi Systems. You can reach me at jeff.bailey@yardi.com. Conversely, my cell phone number, 941-275-4955. Couple things you'll be interested in with Yardi. We have Yardi Matrix, which is a data service, and we track storage facilities across multiple markets in the United States. We also track vacant land, and the information that we track there is, square footage, demographic data, supply data. So we keep tabs on permits being pulled, construction status of storage facilities and boat and RV facilities. We also do pricing surveys, market surveys, so we know what the competition's doing in each of those markets. So you can zero in on a location, you can get a feel for how many storage facilities are in the area. You can evaluate the demographics there, things of that nature. Really handy product, Yardi Matrix. And the other part of our offering is property management solutions. We can build websites for you, market that facility for you, help you track prospects and tenants. We have a fully integrated vendor management and AP system. So at the end of the day, you'll be able to generate your financial statements, report to your investors, and then provide top-level customer service to your tenants and renters.
Thank you, Jeff. And John?
Yeah, John Bilton. I'm with Janus International Group, and I'm part of the Nokē Smart Entry team. John, John, .Bilton at janusintl.com. And my cell phone number is 801-550-6636. And anybody's welcome to reach out to me at any time. Janus International Group kind of does everything, the physical stuff that Jeff's side doesn't do. We can actually, erect a building, and we do the bending of the steel for a specific building. We'll put the door and hallway system in the building, so all the steel, light gauge steel associated with that. And then we also do the access control systems. And so we build canopies for RV and boat. And when we put the access control on, that's what we call Nokē Smart Entry. And the Nokē product is been around about 5-6 years now, and we've got a lot of people using that, well over 1 million users on the Nokē Smart Entry system now. And so that can be at a roll-up door, or it can be at an entry point or a gate, whatever the case may be, and providing that security and data for the owner operator. And so Janus has got a pretty broad scope in the industry. We also manufacture actual gates, and we do camera systems, and we'll put in a full Wi-Fi network. We'll put in music in a indoor climate controlled site if you want music, and we do all of those kinds of things. And so we will provide one of those things, or all of them, or some of them on any particular construction site or retrofit site. So thank you. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you, John. And before I give my contact information real quick, I just wanted to ask John and Jeff very quickly, do you feel like we've covered the breadth of what someone getting into Class A boat and RV and needing to think about technology, is there anything outlying that you think folks should know, or have we really kind of covered the basic gamut for folks? I know that's very open-ended, guys.
I'll be honest with you. Like, we talked about access, we talked about software. Some of the coolest things I've seen, and these are the guys that build this stuff out, like, the dump station, the ice machine, like those value-added premium services. If you're building a boat and RV facility, I think that stuff is really kind of cool. I got to be honest with you. I just, I don't know. Like, did we cover the breadth of everything? Certainly not.
Well, Jeff, I'll on ancillary revenue next time. We can talk about
exactly.
I
mean, there's some really cool stuff out there. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm not going to pretend to know, but like, every time I look at a facility, I see something new that's really cool. So yeah, go look around, see
Yeah.
what you can find.
Yeah.
I kind of agree. I mean, I think we
Yeah.
didn't talk about camera systems and stuff like that. And there's some really
Yeah.
cool stuff going on in cameras. There's some sites that are using lasers for security. There's some sites that are using, smart cameras and AI technology to identify certain type of activity that might be nefarious at a site as it's watching it.
Wow.
I've got people that are using sirens and also, using microphones saying we're watching you and talking to a would-be person. So there's some interesting stuff out there in the marketplace. It's not everywhere, but I think owner operators, when they start digging into these things and they'll find them and see what works for them and what works for their particular market and location.
Got it. Thank you, John. And you bring up another good area is just the whole, we could have done just a thing on security and covered cameras, all different kinds of things.
Yeah.
We'll do more of these later on. I hope you don't mind if I bring you back at a later time. Thank you both so much for your time today. I do know, and I am cognizant we went a little over here, and I know you both are very busy men. I just wanted to give my contact information real quick. My name is Amy Bix. I am the president of Toy Storage Nation. We're a media education brand that focuses specifically on Class A boat and RV storage. We have a number of resources for folks who are either already in this market or looking to get into the market. Number one thing is our website, constantly updated every day with new articles, reports, information, case studies. Worth checking out. Also, we do a newsletter every month. We kind of highlight the big things that are happening. We also have this podcast. If you've come to it from our website, then you know it from our website. You may come to it from YouTube. We also, one of the most important things that we have is our workshops. They are full day, very intense workshops. So we cover just about every topic you can think of, from feasibility, financing, marketing, security, software, you name it. The great and amazing thing that we have is we have folks that are participating with Toy Storage Nation, such as John Bilton and Jeff Bailey, whether they're advisory board members, sponsors, supporters of Toy Storage Nation. This is a level of expertise that you'll get at a workshop. And you can get all of the information for the Toy Storage Nation workshops at toystoragenation.com. Last but not least is our membership program. That comes with a number of vendor discounts, as well as a guide to boat and RV storage that's pretty expensive. So my contact information, it's simply Amy, amy.bix, B-I-X, at toystoragenation.com. My phone number is 602-909-3910. Want to thank everyone for listening, and thank you very much, Jeff and John, for joining us today.
Thank you.